Hi everyone! My husband and I this summer did a new project. We transplanted all our irises, well mostly he did, to this new flower bed in our front yard. And some of them look a little wilty right now, but I have great faith that in the spring they're going to flourish. Have you ever been in a situation that you didn't choose, where you've been uprooted maybe into a new job, a new location, or just a life experience that you don't want to be in? How do we respond at those times? That's the premise of Dream of Kings. I take Jolan, a dream teller who just wants to serve her people, and she goes on a wild adventure. Will she wilt or will she flourish? Is the question throughout the book as she meets enemies and allies and has all kinds of adventures. I hope you enjoy it. I don't actually listen to music while writing very often, but when I need a break from writing, music is perfect. It stirs a different side of my creative nature and refreshes me, and so I love to play all kinds of music after doing some heavy-duty writing. I appreciate my readers so much that when we got ready to launch my new novel, Dream of Kings, I wanted to come up with a gift that I could give every single reader who pre-orders the hardcover edition. Over the years, I've written for a lot of devotion books. So I had the idea of creating a special digital devotion. It's a 30-day devotion guide called Devotions for Dreamers. I hope you enjoy it. It's for everyone who pre-orders the hardcover before October 11th, which is the release date. Here's a little sampling of the free digital devotion, Devotions for Dreamers, from one of the devotions. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." Genesis 31, verse 4. I'm convinced that God is often at work behind the scenes, protecting us in ways we don't know, guiding us in ways we don't recognize, and unfolding the stories of many other people even while he shapes ours. In the midst of yet another contentious relationship, Jacob sneaks away with his wives and children and flocks, and Laban chases him down. Jacob had a tendency to take things into his own hands, to force them to go his way. But he didn't seem to know that all along God was fighting for him behind the scenes. Would he have been reassured if he'd known that God spoke to Laban in a dream? Have you prayed over and over and still only see the problem or need and not the answer? Dare to thank God for what he's doing on your behalf that you don't see yet. That's just a little snippet from one of the devotions in Devotions for Dreamers. Jolan doesn't spend very long in Norgard, but the first couple of chapters, it's a very glacial country, and yes, it was inspired by living in the North Country, where we often get 30 below zero Fahrenheit. So I think I started writing the story in the middle of a winter, and that's probably why I included frozen lakes and glaciers and fjords and all of that. Kelvin Miller once wrote, "We are the trustees of our glorious individuality." Isn't that beautiful? I think for writers it's easy to become discouraged because the world is full of a million books and a million voices clamoring for our attention, and we wonder, is mine needed? The answer is yes. You have unique experiences, you have a unique voice, you have a unique style, that God can use in this world that will reach a reader that nobody else can reach. Also, sometimes what happens with the book is not even the point. It's the time you spend with God in the creative process. God is great at multitasking. So while you're creating a book that you hope will inspire and encourage and entertain readers, which is great, God may also be doing a second purpose, deepening your own heart, your own spiritual journey. So as a writer, the more we can focus on the time with God and His multi-pronged purposes, the less we'll give in to that discouragement. The one essential when I sit down to write for me is my mug of tea. I actually created flavors of hot drinks in all of my series. In the Sword of Lyrics series, they drink clavo, and I actually designed a tea blend on Adagio for that. In the Dancing Realms series, they drink sala, which is more of a citrus flavor, herbal kind of tea. And in Dream of Kings, they drink quokka. So I found these chocolate teas that I think come pretty close to hitting the flavor of what they drink in Norgard. Along with my tea, when I sit down to write, I often have a bowl of homemade snack mix with Cheerios, gluten-free Chex, gluten-free pretzels, cashews, and nibble on that while I write. So with tea and some snack mix, I can go for a long time. A favorite book that I listened to this past year, because I really love audiobooks, was A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. It's about his adventures trying to hike the Appalachian Trail. My husband and I have hiked sections of the Superior Trail, so I really related to this, and because many of my fantasy adventures include hiking in the woods at some point or another, I really enjoyed the book. I'm so glad you like those little headings at the beginning of each chapter, quotes from books, from the culture. If you're a writer, I hope that the story world that you create becomes so real to you that you feel like you could walk into a library and pull a history book off the shelf and find the fantastical kingdom that you created and quotes from the great scholars of that kingdom. And that's what I kind of in my imagination did as I created those chapter headings. Writing Dream of Kings was hugely strengthening for my faith, very encouraging. I began writing it during the pandemic. It was my pandemic novel, and our family faced a time of loss, and so did so many other people that we knew. So grappling with the questions of the painful things of life was very cathartic and healing for me. As I wrote about Jolan, who at the beginning of the book suffers loss and betrayal and circumstances that she didn't ever expect. She has to grapple with questions of, where is God when it hurts? What is he up to? What if we can't ever figure out what he's up to? Can we still trust him? So the process of writing her story really helped me grapple with those questions and come to a point of surprising joy in the midst of pain, that I can't always understand what's happening around me or in my life that's painful, but I know who I can trust, and that God's love is big enough to carry us through. So while the writing of the book came at a difficult time and it took a couple years of hard work, it was still very encouraging to my faith, and I hope it will be to readers as well, watching how Jolan discovers unexpected joy in the midst of incredibly difficult trials. One of my hobbies is gardening. It's kind of the end of the season here. We've got a few green tomatoes left to bring in. But during the summer, I'm often out here discovering all kinds of treasures under the leaves. My brother-in-law made me this beautiful block of wood called a writer's block, which always makes me giggle. But it's true, sometimes writers do get writer's block. My greatest tool when I feel stuck as I'm working on a story is my writing group. We meet every Monday morning for a time of prayer for each other and talk about what we're going to tackle in the week, and that gives us some accountability. And we also do brainstorming sessions and help each other out. So if we get stuck at a plot point, we can ask the group. There was a point in Dream of Kings where I was stuck and I said, it's starting to feel slow and it needs something else. And one of the members of the writers group said, throw in a sword fight, that always works. So having a group of writing buddies, even if you only can meet virtually, is a huge help when you're feeling stuck. From Dream of Kings to see a Broadway musical. It's actually off Broadway, but I would bring Jolan to see The Fantastics. It's a show that I've been in a couple of times, I love, and it really shows that happy endings aren't always the happy ending you think they're going to be, and that some of the things that go wrong end up creating something of beauty. One of the most challenging things for me writing Dream of Kings was my own physical and cognitive limitations. And it's very frustrating to remember the way I used to be able to write, sit down and just work for hours and words would flow. And writing Dream of Kings, I had to spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour in the morning and then be done for the day. My words would stop, my ability to create and think would stop, and I'd be physically exhausted and need to rest the rest of the day. So it was a little unnerving because I worried that the story would feel as choppy as my writing experience felt. But I took a lot of comfort in that I wrote the Dancing Realms series the same way, little bit by little bit, and was terrified when Hidden Current released that people would feel it was as difficult and plodding as it felt to me as I wrote it. And the response was so encouraging, and that's helped me when I worry about how my writing comes across to readers. The most enjoyable thing about writing Dream of Kings for me were the surprises. I thought I knew where the story was going, but it kept shifting and changing and adjusting, and the characters did things I didn't expect, and it was so fun to watch that unfold and just experience the adventures with Jolan.